Hello, my name is Jalen Horton, Kinesiology 3347, and this is my presentation on the research I did for resistance training. Volume enhances muscular hypertrophy, but not strength in trained men. So the reasoning for this study was to measure muscular adaptations throughout a variety of resistance training protocols between low, moderate, and high intensity hypertrophy training in an 8-week period. So the method for this assessment was 34 well-trained men, about university age, about 18 to 35, were randomly assigned a volume performing group, like I said, low, moderate, and high intensity, where they partake in a muscular endurance program for 8 weeks with three training sessions per week. So the first assessment they did was a 1 rep max for the barbell back squat and the barbell bench press, just to get a baseline of strength for each of the participants, because not everybody has the same strength, and that way they could design a hypertrophy program appropriately for each of these participants, to reduce weight if they need to reach repetition maxes. And like I said, just not everybody's strength is the same, so that's why they did this. And to find muscular measurements, they used a ultrasound imaging, and what they did was they measured the elbow flexor, the elbow extensor, and the mid-thigh thickness, because that's usually where a big part of the muscle lies, in those three areas I mentioned. And with hypertrophy training, they will grow if you do it correctly. So first method of assessment, they did 50% of each participant's barbell bench max, 50% of their max, and they just did repetitions until that participant couldn't go no more. So with the low, moderate, and high group, the low group would do one set, 8 to 12 repetitions, and around that 8 to 12 range, they should be failing with, like I said, about 50 to 60% of their max. With the moderate group, they did 3 sets, 8 to 12 repetitions, like I said, almost failing on those 8 to 12. And the high intensity group did 5 sets, 8 to 12 reps. And with all these trainings, they probably did about 90 seconds of rest between each exercise. And also, a barbell bench and a back squat was not the only hypertrophy movements that they did. So what they did, they also did military press, which is just an overhead shoulder press with a barbell or dumbbells. They did a lateral pull down. That targets the back. They did seated cable row. This also targets the mid back. You pull towards you with some resistance. Like I said, squat. And they did a leg press machine that targets your legs, your quadriceps. And they also did leg extensions, which also targets the quadriceps. So those were all the exercises they did to reach hypertrophy. Like I said, it wasn't just a back squat or a barbell bench. They did these too. 3 times a week for 8 weeks. So the participants, like I said, there was 34 of them, ages 18 to 35. They have to be considered well trained, and during this process, 11 subjects dropped out due to personal injuries, reasons, or non-compliance. To participate in this progress, you have to have no existing skeletal disorders, must be free of anabolic steroids, and must have experience in resistance training for at least 1 year. And throughout that 52 weeks, you have to have trained 3 times a week to be eligible to participate. And that's what's considered well trained. So the results of all this with this hypertrophy training, there was no evidence or no significant difference between the 1 rep max on bench, squat, and muscular endurance. They measured these again after the 8 weeks, the 1 rep maxes, and there wasn't a big increase in weight and how much each of the participants could move, because they just focused on hypertrophy training. But elbow flexor and extensor thickness improved, and the mid-thigh thickness improved. I wanted to show a chart. One second. of each of the progress that each of the groups made. So if you look at A, that is group 1. If you look at B, that is group 2. If you look at C, that is group 3. Low, moderate, and high intensity. And you can see here the muscle thickness on the y-axis. It substantially increases as we move on, as we're looking at the participants, the thickness of it. You see this is in the 40s, this one's in the 50s, and this one's in the 60s and 70s. So it's pretty evident that there was progress made with each of the participants. And that's what they got. So this is my citation, and that pretty much wraps up my presentation. Thank you.